We're here to serve and will serve with honor. On the 18th February 2025, I set a deadline of 31st March 2025 for all appointees who are taking office or being nominated at the time to declare their assets. An update provided by the Auditor General to my office indicates that some of you failed to meet that deadline. For all those who are appointed or nominated before 31st March 2025 and failed to meet the deadline, you are to forfeit 3 months of salary to be donated to the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, named after me, Mahama Cares. In addition to 1 month's salary that I've asked all appointees to donate to the Mahama Cares Trust Fund. So it means that those who omitted to declare your assets by the date, you are paying 4 months' salary to Mahama Cares. However, if by close of day Wednesday, 7th May 2025, any of you still fails to declare your assets, count yourself automatically dismissed. The assets declaration regime is an important mechanism to check corruption and abuse of office, and it must be respected by all. My brothers and sisters,
well, as if that weren't enough, government spokesperson Felix Kwachofosu has also announced on his X page, and I quote, President Mahama has also made known that in addition to docking 4 months' salary and paying the same to the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, the President said 3 months. Now, any appointee who fails to declare their assets by close of day tomorrow stands automatically dismissed from the government. And this is what Felix puts on his X page. That's why you have it on your screens now. Now, it's good time to bring in government spokesperson Felix Kwachofosu, who will join us pretty soon. Also joining us via Zoom is the Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and we'll have all of them for you shortly. Madam Mariada, good afternoon and welcome to the Pulse.
Good afternoon to you, and thank you for having me, and good afternoon to the other panelists and also to your viewers.
Right, and I'm also joined by Professor Bafo Ajimendu. Prof, always a pleasure to speak to you on the Pulse. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, and hello to my good friend Ada.
Yes. So if we are trying to get Felix to provide some clarity on some of the things that happened to the Jubilee House. So, yeah, Felix, sorry, my brother Felix, good afternoon, welcome to the program.
Okay.
Great to have you. So, meaning that those who are yet to declare their assets, they have maximum 15 hours to do so. Otherwise, they shouldn't blame anybody.
Exactly. They have the rest of today and the working hours of tomorrow to do so. Otherwise, they face the sack. That is the directive handed down by the president.
But I'm curious, why is it so difficult to do? I mean, I checked the list. Some actually contested it. They gave a reason why. Some said the Fourth Estate publication got it wrong because they had done so and it provided evidence to back it. Some of them are yet to respond to this. The president, in January, when he did so in the full glare of the entire nation, said he instructed all his appointees to declare their assets by March 31st, 2025, with consequences, including removal from office for non-compliance. I was expecting that they should have been sacked without even giving them another window of opportunity.
Well, the president said consequences, including. So that means that there are other remedies. But the fact is that the president expected that all those who had been appointed by the time he issued that ultimatum, and even beyond that, up until 31st December, would have complied. Periodically, updates were received from the Auditor General in order for us to know who has complied with the directive. I must indicate that there were clear discrepancies in the Fourth Estate publication.
Right.
They got some people's position wrong. There were people who had actually obtained a receipt from the Auditor General proving so, but who were erroneously said not to have done that. The Fourth Estate itself admitted that. And so we had to reconcile the listener to be sure of who was defaulting. Now it is clear who the defaulters are. And it is for that reason that the president has issued this ultimatum today. So those who fail to comply would have themselves to blame by close of day tomorrow.
And you don't know why they have...
Well, I cannot hazard a guess for them. But I'm sure that if the time comes for sanctions to be applied, which will lead to a termination of the appointments, it will be up to them to show why the termination should not happen. But as we speak, the president is not accepting any excuse beyond being able to file by the deadline that he has issued. Let me also clarify that the sanctions for those who fail to comply is 4 months. The president has directed that all of us, irrespective of whether you complied or not, pay 1 month salary
to the Mahama Care.
The Mahama Cares program or the Ghana Medical Trust Fund. Now, those who fail to comply with this will have another 3 months of their salaries withheld and pay to the fund. So when you add it, that is 4 months for them. But those of us who complied will pay 1 month. That is why I posted that it is 4 months. So we need to clarify that. Yeah.
Kindly bear with me. Let me allow Professor Bafo Edmandia a bite on this matter. Prof, clearly, this is the first time I'm witnessing a sitting president take this tough action against some of his appointees relating to the matter of asset declaration.
Yes, this is the first time, and I'm quite pleased with the initiative. As you said, no president has had the courage to even publicly chastise his appointees over this constitutional requirement that most public officers tend to ignore. So I'm happy that he's taking this step. It might not be what we expected, especially since it's in his first announcement. He seemed to have said, if you don't do it by the 31st of March, you'll be gone. But nonetheless, punishing them with forgoing their salaries for 3 or 4 months, I think it's a good beginning. So I'm happy that the president is taking this tough stance. And
are they racing against time to have it done before the close of work tomorrow?
Of course, that's their problem, because the president gave them, I don't know how many weeks before, and if they did it and is now serious about enforcing his directive, I think, in fact, the president has been very kind to them, because normally, when a president gives a directive, presidential directive, it's not simply pleading with you to do, it's a must.
Right.
So by flouting a presidential directive alone, I think they should have been dismissed outright. So I think the president has been a bit magnanimous, in allowing them 15 hours or so to fulfill this requirement.
Ms. Mariada, your thoughts on this matter?
I believe
Hello?
I have had occasion to say a number of times that they have contravened the law as it is. Because for me, what the Constitution says is even past. And so as others have espoused, what we would have wanted to see is declaring the assets before the assumption of office. And so for me, giving them the opportunity to declare and they're not doing so means they didn't even recognize the office of the president and the very specific orders he had made to them during the swearing-ins. And I was particularly excited he kept coming back to them with this. And so this is even very small. For me, I think it should have been outright dismissals for most of them, because the president has the discretionary power to do so. But then it is within his mandate to also prefer others. And so giving them less than 48 hours to ensure that it is done is very critical. And I think that going forward, people will take this seriously. And let me say, without any equivocation at all, that we haven't had this shown in the past.
Right.
And so the president taking this step goes to tell us that he means business, and then all who want to work with him must also do so. And we also, and saying this at the launch of the code of conduct is also very instructive, even though we would have wanted something else, and I'll come back to that if I have opportunity.
Of course, we'll come back to that, because Felix has a lot he's doing at the Jubilee House, so I don't want to keep him I don't want to keep him on the line for so long. Felix, another matter that also happened today is the code of conduct for the president appointees. Now, when Nana Akufo-Addo was in power, they wanted this done through Parliament. So the draft ended up at Cabinet. It didn't move from Cabinet to Parliament. Now, in the case of President Mahama, that has been adored today, meaning appointees will now go strictly according to the rules and regulations governing this particular one. And some of the things we are hearing from it about gifts, what value of gifts can you disclose or keep? There's also other issues that have come up. If you can walk us through some of the fine details in this code of conduct and whether this will be subjected to some parliamentary consideration and approval in the future.
Well, the code of conduct touches broad areas of behavior. It has provisions on gifts and says that you cannot accept any gifts above a threshold of 20,000 cedis.
Right.
You cannot engage in conflict of interest. You cannot prioritize the welfare of your friends and family in government. It has provisions on travel. The fact that travel must be essential and that permission must be sought from the chief of staff before such travel is embarked upon. And that conflict of interest must be declared not through informal channels, but through formal communication to the president. It also has provisions on how ministers and appointees are supposed to relate to the public through civil means and respectful means. It also has provisions on how to utilize government finances and so many other things that appointees need to comply with once they remain in office. And the whole object of this is to streamline and regulate behavior so that people are left with no doubt about the do's and don'ts of their office. And President believes that this will help guide appointees in the way that they conduct their affairs in office.
And a punishment regime in this?
Yeah, there are sanctions regimes, within the code of conduct. And it is clear, if you violate it, the president spelled it out, that there are some of them that are mild. For instance, depending on the gravity of the offense, you could be punished a certain way. You could be asked to render a public apology. You could be asked to resign. You could be dismissed, or you could be suspended. So there are various punishments that are set down for those who breach the various codes as outlined in the code of conduct. So
effective immediately, this is in force?
Effective immediately, yes.
All right, fellas, thank you so much for your time spent with us this afternoon.
Yeah.
So let me start with you, Mariada. You had issues, you had other concerns with the asset declaration. I remember before the Constitutional Review Committee, somewhere last 2 weeks, and I know Professor Bafo Ejimadia was there when the Office of the Special Prosecutor, led by the Special Prosecutor himself, took their turn before the CRC. Now, one of the things Kissie Jabin said was that he is against making the asset declared public. But what he will be interested in is to allow a state entity like the OSP, for example, to vet them as and when they come in. And when they are also leaving office, they vet to ensure that they've not, appropriated anything beyond what they declared. Is this something that you will support?
I am not sure why Kissie Jabin would have said that. It is clear. Let me come back to the issue of the asset declaration and why we believe certain things must be done. And let me say that as far back as 2013, when this current president was in power, there was a draft that was done by Shraj in consultation with civil society, and some of us played a key role in getting a draft bill in place, which speaks to 3 different areas of public life. So one is the issue of asset declaration. And the intention is that we wanted asset declaration law that was punitive enough, that meets international standards and also best practice across the globe. So we wanted issues of that the asset declaration regime should be robust enough to speak to issues of visibility. And when you talk about visibility, you are talking about the assets declared being published. You are talking about issues also of ensuring that every public officer who needs to declare is in there. So we want an expanded scope of the assets to be declared. We also believe that assets that are declared must be verified. Because if they are declared and not verified, then it doesn't make sense in declaring after all. And if these declared assets are not published, then who knows what is in there? And as it is currently, we know that when they declare the assets and they present them to the Auditor General, there is usually some sort of
Mary's connection is freezing, so I'll allow her to reposition herself, and then let me go to Professor Bafo-Ajimandua. So, Prof, Mary is making the points. At that Constitutional Review Committee meeting, you were there when Kizé Jabi made a point that there should be a way to... Yes, Mary, if you can conclude for it, so I can go to Prof.
Yes, so I just wanted to conclude that for us, what the president has done does not depart from what he already had when he was in office in 2013.
Okay.
So we would want to see an asset declaration law that is captured in the conduct of public officers. Again, within there, the issue of what the Honorable Felix was talking about, there is conflict of interest within there. And currently, remember that the conflict of interest regime is not robust. It's not criminalized. Until we criminalize it, we cannot hold people responsible unless, of course, administratively. And perhaps by the discretionary powers of the president, he could take certain decisions. So we must be mindful, and we must remind the president at every opportunity that this bill was started in 2013. And so the onus lies on him now to support its passage. And all the issues the Honorable spoke to are also within this bill. The gifts, the issues around conflict of interest, and also the issues around assets declaration.
All right.
We want an asset declaration regime that speaks to all the issues and not some. And it must be robust enough to meet international standard. The robustness, the visibility, the expansiveness, and also we need to make it very, very strong.
So Prof, I mean, how much of value can we place on an asset declared but the content unknown?
In fact, that has been a problem all along. But it's so interesting, in a country called Liberia, where I worked with the UN, their corruption, anti-corruption office, embarked on something that was very interesting. They, in fact, once you declare your assets, the commission went around and took pictures of your households declared, and they put it in the newspapers. I was there, and I worked with that office. So they had no qualms at all about making public the assets that their public officials declared. As our city have been away 10 years, I don't know if they still hold on to that kind of principle. So I can't say, but when I was there, I witnessed that. In our case, as you know, even with these declarations, we know that politicians are very smart. They've learned through the years how to hide assets, either by getting someone to front for them or whatever. They have all kinds of ways to do that. So in fact, if you are not strict with this, getting them to, if you see, I was there when Mr. Ajabin made his point,
right,
that culturally Ghanaians don't want to show their assets. There's some truth to that. But I think we need to move a bit away from that culture, because the problem is to mix culture with our modern forms of governance. Then we cannot really do things. So I think whilst I can't concede that in some cases you don't want to publicize it, I think some officers must know thoroughly what you have with pictures and everything, so that when you are leaving, that office, if it's going to be the OSP's office, can go and cross-check if any changes have been made. So I think the idea of somehow making it partially public will be an important step to take.
And then the other matter, you know, President Akufo-Addo wanted Parliament to have a buy-in and to give that legal seal to the code, the code of conduct for public office holders. Now, President Mahama decided that he would develop his own and then impose it on his appointees. Today, it's been adored and effective immediately. It is in section. The details, part of the details, what Felix shared with us. Is it the way to go in terms of addressing some of the deep-seated corruption that is difficult to address, especially relating to public office holders?
Let me make a general statement that in our country, we have all kinds of laws. Somebody will say every law, possibly, we have it. The problem has been how we enforce the laws and how people respect those laws. So in that context, whether you take it to the parliament to legislate the code or not, it depends on how you are able to make people to respect it and how the enforcement officers can enforce it. So in this case, if the president is giving the code of conduct, and I heard Felix talking about certain sanctions that have been imposed on misbehavior or any breaches, if we can get the government, or in this case, the president, to enforce it, to get his people to respect the code, then I don't see the difference between whether it's been legislated or not. Because as I say, legislations will not immediately make it enforceable or anything of the sort, because generally we don't respect the law. So if the president has done this, and once we get the details, we will know. Because as somebody would say, the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating.
Right.
Let's get the details. And institutions like a marriage institution and others can keep and begin to monitor themselves. You know, even the president's sanctions he announced today, I don't want to think that it was Mr. Yaodevolov's statement a few weeks or so ago, reminding the president of this commitment that pushed him to come today to really put this across. I don't want to believe that. The president has his own agenda, which is great one. But the point I'm making is that it is how this code is respected, the extent to which it's respected, the extent to which it's enforced, and more importantly, the sanctions that the president is placing on them. If he's able to do any of those, then I think with or without the legislative support, it can still be good.
And I'm wondering who should monitor this and ensure strict compliance. Should there be a desk set up at the office of the president, or an office outside government machinery should be tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that appointees go according to the rules and regulations governing this?
I don't believe that the president can set up his own office to monitor and report, because these people know themselves there could be self-dealings. I think we need an independent entity. We can attach it to OSP if we think that's the right place. Shrach is there. I don't know how. I know he's working, but hey, Shrach can do that. And more importantly, civil society organizations, Imani, CD, and others. That's why earlier, and of course, the integrity institution. So I think this can be picked up by independent bodies to really monitor and report. But we need the details. In fact, going back to the asset declaration, I'm hoping that the full list of those who have not complied, as we got to know today, should be given to the public so we can all monitor. If it includes a name Bafo, and after 15 hours or 2 days later, Bafo is still at work, and I know it has not been announced that he has declared, and we know that the president is not fulfilling his promise on that particular spot. So I think there must be a way to make this transparent so that we can all be sure that the president indeed is, keeping to his word.
Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon on the pause. Let me cross over to Mariada. So, Mary, I mean, those of you in the anti-corruption community, you've been calling for this. Even though it didn't go to Parliament, it is in session, guiding the conduct of appointees of the president. Do you think it is a step towards sanitizing the system?
I believe so. I believe public officers would only be compliant when they know that there is a third eye out there. And then people who make proclamations also believe they also follow them through with action. Remember, the fight against corruption, or the bane against it has been the fact that compliance has been very low.
Right.
And people are aware that they can get away with all the infractions, no matter what, so far as they belong to certain classes in the society. So for this, it's good for the optics. And
again, we are losing you there, Mariada. Okay, we'll leave it. I guess the point is made. Thank you so much, Mariada, with Ghana Integrity Initiative, of course, Professor Bafo Ajimendua, former UN governance experts on these matters. They are the experts. Now, before we go, the Electricity Company of Ghana has set an end-of-year ultimatum to fix all localized flaws causing power outages in Accra. Now, this promise is coming at the back of an installation of a new mobile substation at Chado to address consistent power challenges in the Chado and the Bemakam area. James Aveji was with them this morning, and this is his report.
After years of power challenges in the Chado area, the Electricity Company of Ghana this dawn brought what you see behind me here, this mobile transformer, in order to boost power supply in the area. They are hoping that the installation of this would help improve power supply to customers in the area greatly.
Ideally, we operate our transformers at economic loading of 70%. But currently, we are going above 100, which is not good. So we are putting the transformer under a lot of stress. So that is the issue now.
Is there any specific reason why the demand here is increasing by the day?
Okay, good. So this is a new development area, and you can see the type of buildings here, very huge ones, and you can see most of them are blasting on 24/7 ACs all day. So that is actually making the load to go high. This is a 2026 kilovolts, megavolts ampere, that's MVA substation, and it has this can take care of over 5,000 and more customers within this area, and that is, and it is operating on a voltage of 33 and 11 kilovolts, so kV. And that is how it is.
Which means, as far as ECG is concerned, the petty challenges in this area will be resolved as soon as you install this and begin distribution.
That is right. That is correct.
Beyond fixing the Chado problem, General Manager Maintenance in charge of the Accra Sub-Transmission, Engineer Francis Kofi Achacha, also explained the medium-term plan of the ECG, which he said will fix the challenges across Accra by end of this year.
You know, ECG has a plan for the year, and so we have already planned for some of these injections and system improvement before even the minister came in with the KPIs. So we are already working towards improving on our services.
So your customers all around the Accra region should be assured that which area has these issues will be fixed within what duration of time?
So within this year, we are sure that we'll be able to resolve most of the issues concerning power outages, low voltages, and few other issues. We'll be able to resolve all of them.
From Chado here in Accra, I am James Aveji reporting for Joy News.
All right, so thank you very much, James. And of course, that's how we are starting the week, and we are taking you through on an exciting journey. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. We've got more news on Top Story, on News, and of course on Joy News Prime. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope is profitable. My name is Elton Brobe. Have a good evening and take care. See you tomorrow, same time here on Joy News.